Welcome back to episode 69 of the Grapple and Growth podcast with me, Joe Testori. On today's episode, I had the pleasure of welcoming on Nathan Gard, who is the founder of TalentThrive, an organization that helps people and companies make smarter hiring and promotion decisions using data-driven insights into soft skills. You can feel Nathan's energy, his passion for helping his clients all throughout this podcast, the way how he thinks, and he's always looking to serve his market. So this is a great podcast if you're someone who wants to get to the next level with how you're serving your clients and how he's consistently thinking about how he can innovate his product and how he can make his intellectual property better to bring to market. This man is obsessed with growth and how he can level up his business. Enjoy. As entrepreneurs, we all experience challenges in our business journey. I'm Joe Testori, and the Grappling Growth podcast is my attempt at documenting my entrepreneurial journey while building my brands. I sit down with fellow entrepreneurs, understanding how they grapple with growth. I hope you find value and enjoy. Nathan, pleasure to have you on the show today.
Joe, I appreciate you having me.
You're most welcome, sir. Nathan, I'm curious, in your world, what does growth look like to you?
So growth is twofold for us. So I'm in the people talent business. So one of those is with people, grow with people. So hiring folks to do other tasks that should be delegated out and or help us support our customers the best way possible. Two, growth to me also as a business owner stands for scaling our software and our business and that kind of growth for expansion into the market growth and growth into revenues.
Mm-hmm. And if you were to take a bit more of an introspective look, I know that you mentioned you're a golfer today. What does golf? What does growth look like from a more personal lens?
Well, you mentioned golf. Growth would be shooting under par. So, but outside of that, just personally, growth just means being able to handle things. I actually had a conversation this morning and talking about somebody ironically thriving through adversity. Mm-hmm. So how they can grow as a person in regards to the challenges that they're facing today as a person, whether it's workforce, employment, day-to-day, family life, just growth as an individual, making sure that you are kind of doing your checks and balances to keep a positive attitude. So that is kind of allowing people to grow and or affect other people in a positive way. So sometimes understanding how to handle situations better and that kind of growth.
Mm-hmm. When you take your previous life, your previous experiences, when you formed TalentThrive in 2018, what was the vision for the business back then, and how does that look compared to today?
Great question, because it's different. So when I first started in 2018, my whole background had kind of been in the career builder world, job posting, resume database, really evolving growth from the online in the 90s, 2000s, about how everything was shifting to online, to then working with a company that was a talent management software company on top of my search background. So in 2018, I started the business to do retained search staffing, as well as complement it with another offering within software, reselling my previous employer's talent management software solutions. And then I don't know if you or your audience knows this thing called COVID hit. So everybody, you want to talk about growth, that would test growth on how you can persevere or grow. What pivot is another P word that came about a lot during that time. People were trying to sit back with perspective of their life, growth in their career, their livelihood, what are they going to do and a lot of people also pivoted, Joe, in their workforce. So we were one of those. We decided to not resell our former employer anymore. So we wanted to come out of COVID with our own proprietary IP and software around filling the gaps of my previous employer. I felt with an objective data piece of the puzzle to make people decisions in a better and easier way. And then also digest that information easier to where it can be scalable and easier digestible. So really wanted to fill those gaps from what they were doing and then what we've seen on the market.
And just for the benefit of the audience, could you just
Yeah,
share how you help your ideal customer audience?
happy to. So there's multiple customers avenues that we have. So one would be coaches and business consultants. We work in tandem with them to complement their expertise with a technology and a software that's easy for their customers and themselves to understand and use to complement them making the best people decisions on top of their expertise and time. Two is military and education space, meaning we help military folks transition from military to transition to the civilian career world, which is a huge, you want to talk about growth, another growth area. I don't know if that's going to be the theme of our conversation, but them being able to grow from taking order culture to a civilian culture and a career. We help them transition there and agencies and the DoD and the TAP programs. Also, students coming out of into the workforce, how are they going to promote themselves and what kind of right fits after they get their diplomas that they want to tackle and approach and promote themselves. And then lastly, the B2B. So if it's direct with a company and organization, if they're hiring, promoting their people, maybe succession planning, looking instead of terming people, where can we move them within the organization sideways or up, and then helping develop them for a full holistic employment ecosystem benefit.
Thank you. What would you say in the last, let's rewind it to the last 2 years, what would you say has been the biggest challenge you've seen within your market in order to get to that next threshold, that next ceiling personally?
Yeah, I think there's been a lot of noise just in life in general. So folks in trying to operate their own business, I think there's been a lot of difficulties on their end and managing the landscape and the environment of um, whatever it may be within the market. So balancing that for their own businesses, but then also incorporating maybe a new approach. So that's kind of been a challenge coming out and say, hey, here's a new approach to do something. Take the time to kind of evaluate this. Can it be better and beneficial for you as a business?
Hmm. And then taking a bit more of a forward lens, how do you see your growth strategy pivoting from what it has been over the last few years to enable the most sustainable growth for yourselves?
Yeah, I think our biggest one is using technology ourselves, AI, um, delegating certain factors internally for our business to support and reach the correct audience of folks who are having troubles around making these type of talent or people decisions, identifying folks who maybe have talents and abilities that they didn't know of and
Hmm.
getting that to the market and really sharing our message better has been a growth area for us for just saying we're a talent data company
Hmm.
into actually sharing the message about um, making sure you're promoting the right people instead of terming somebody. Does that individual have other capabilities and talents that would match up within the organization to benefit them to thrive as well as the business instead of costing it time and money and evaluating? So I think sharing our message more than just being a talent data software company and how it specifically expands candidates to consider externally or internally, and how we can step by step in certain people pillars address that in one spot. So I think we're trying to get better at our messaging in a growth area.
And you touched upon artificial intelligence there,
Yeah.
and looking at improving your technological innovations. How are you using it now within your growth strategy to facilitate the most streamlined growth?
Yeah, so we're using it in sequencing to identify folks who are having challenges in our space, whether it be all of the people pillars I mentioned of hiring, promotion, succession planning, development, or just one. So identifying somebody that's struggling in that area, it can definitely learn that through articles, social media, individuals kind of messaging or commenting about that, or breaking news feeds or stories. Kind of scrapes and finds that audience for us. So that's been nice. And then two, internally using it to where creating our messaging and or social media presence to
Mm-hmm.
helping us what we think and then running it through AI to see what it says based upon what the message we're trying to get across. What's its recommendations? So that's been a real unique external client acquisition approach, but also internal of how can it help and improve our own efficiencies in messaging.
So it's essentially streamlining the go-to-market strategy that you have to hand and essentially validating it as well. That'd be a fair summary.
100%. Making sure, like I said, I'm not big into, honestly, Joe, I'm not big into wasting people's time. I've been in sales a long time. I really want to just find the people who are having challenges in certain areas or frustrations and seeing if this technology and software that we offer that's new and different can actually simply help them in their day to day and their business functions. And if it can, have those conversations about how and how much it cost and what that ROI is if they said yes.
Hmm. So maybe me putting my marketing hat on a little bit, and you've echoed upon the point of messaging several times. What do you think is the key messaging right now that resonates with your audience? Because this always shifts. This is always it's never static. It's what worked yesterday doesn't work today and won't work tomorrow. So what's working really well for you guys right now?
Right now, it's about expanding talent to consider. So let's say, for example, if somebody's applying for a job post that they spent money on to post, advertise, LinkedIn, however they're getting their needs out there and trying to recruit talent, um, it's really helping as the people apply for that one job. Maybe they don't get hired for that role, but having them in their database, considering them on a soft skill matching front, what other opportunities like a project manager, finance, marketing, are there other areas if they took a week or two to train them in those areas? Do they have the soft skills to match that? So really maximizing the exposure they have to talent, which is hard to find nowadays, that performs and produces in a role that fits for the individual and company. Bringing those together is the biggest thing that we're seeing right now, as well as an internal lens for their employee base, to where maybe somebody raises their hand and says, Mr. or Mrs. Boss, I'm tired of doing inside sales, but they're a very good employee. What could we do with that employee versus, kind of going by gut check of this is what we want to do versus maybe an objective piece of the puzzle to help them make those moves and decisions that helps the companies, quite frankly, and the individuals thrive in that role and eliminate time or costs around terming that person or not knowing where they go and just kind of guessing. We're more predictive in our assumptions. And I always joke, Joe, that we try to make our clients the house, meaning like, if you go to Vegas or if you bet online with FanDuel or something else, it's like, the house usually wins. So we try
Yeah.
to make our organizations who make any kind of decisions around people that it's the best decision and the odds are in their favor.
So just talking about the house and playing that game there,
Yeah.
it's one that a lot of people can relate to, and it's a very good conversation I had today actually talking about blue ocean, red ocean. Uh, Within organizations, I think that's something that goes amiss. There's a lot of times where people are doing the same as others, and that leads to a place where there's over competitiveness, and it's hard for these companies to stand out when they're recruiting. And it's about trying to showcase what makes these businesses unique, gives them idiosyncrasies to help them grow. So I think that's definitely a point that you've touched upon there. Kind of diverting the podcast a little bit away. Are you a man who likes to read?
Honestly, not a lot. It has to be probably my biggest thing that I need to grow areas, maybe read more, but I do love to do the read the biographies of folks, kind of like
Okay.
where they started and where they ended up. So I will get roped into a book, and it's if it's around somebody's story on where they started and how they ended up to where they got to.
What are a
Um,
few of your
I'm more
favorite biographies?
visual. I'm a video guy. I'm a more of a visual person. So
What are a few autobiographies that you really like leaning into?
gosh, just really business stories, athlete stories. Um, if it's business people of success, it can be within business or sports. Usually, is what I gravitate to.
What your go-to sports?
Football is probably my number one. American football,
Uh-huh.
um, and probably a distant second, college basketball.
Fair enough. So then, talking about podcasts, are there any podcasts that you could recommend to the audience? Any go-tos that you really thrive on?
Honestly, I wouldn't because I think it's very specific to the individual. I mean, what I would recommend, I don't know if other people would like or not. So there's a lot of, I mean, I know one of the most popular is Joe Rogan. Some of the other ones, just because really he has interesting people on. So
Great
that
podcast.
so that intrigues me in
Hmm.
regards to, and I also think there's a twist that he's so large now that he can kind of cherry pick who he wants.
Of
And
course.
I think the freedom to just not care what other people think, but he thinks this individual interests me and I want to interview them. I think that's an unreal story about too when he was on the Tom Green podcast on the TV show, and he looked around and said, "This is amazing!" Like it was the beginning of a podcasting world. I
Hmm.
follow Pat McAfee. I follow the sports. I follow the Kelsey brothers here in Cincinnati. They have their own podcast called what is it? New Heights. Um, there's a talent people podcast out there. It's gosh, of course I'm going to forget it now. It's like cheese and something within HR or talent management. So I think there's a lot of podcasts that are coming out specific in our industries,
Hmm.
particular industries. Um, I don't know. There's a lot of them out there that I follow for entertainment and some for entertainment and business.
And is podcasting something that you'd ever venture into? Is that a part of your growth vision?
Um, honestly, we've kicked around the idea once we get to a certain spot,
Hmm.
just because it really gives you a way to sit down and have a conversation with people. And if, whether we just do the podcast or we have our own, I think we're definitely going to have that as part of uh, our day to day in regards to what we want to do on occasion. But daily or weekly, I'm not sure if we would do that ourselves. I think it would be very interesting to do because it'd be more very very authentic and real, and I just want to make sure if it's open and authentic and real, people will want that as well. In
Hmm.
regards to, I think Gary Vee is the one that's pretty good in regards to having real conversation and authentic communication.
Hmm.
So that's just big to me. I just like people that feel comfortable enough to do that, but I don't get offended easy. I don't know if other people do. So it's kind of the audience in regards to, you know, just being your true self and having that conversation so people get to know who you really are. I do think is important.
In my opinion, I think podcasting is one of the highest leverage levers you can pull in your business now when it comes down to your growth strategy because you spoke about word. It's authenticity. It's hard to fake being fake on a continuous basis in front of an audience. People will pick up on your small, minute details, the idiosyncrasies of yourself. So it's definitely something that, for me, it can produce an endless pipeline of content for
How
you in the
long you
business.
been doing it, Joe? I know you're talking to me and interviewing me, but like, how long you been doing it again? I don't think I remember from our first conversation.
just over 2 years now. So I think I
Okay.
started it. I actually started with a co-host back in, I think it was January 2023, and must tell you, the first 5-10 podcasts were horrible. We shot our first podcast, and we I think we reshot it, if I remember correctly. It was so horrible, and
Is
we were
that why the other
stuttering.
person is no longer doing it with you?
No, he's just he's one of my very good friends. I actually spoke to him just before this
Okay.
shoot. No, he's just gone off and done his own thing, and I
Okay.
think you realize, because it takes so much work. You realize if
Yeah.
this is something you truly want to do, and fortunately, we're on a cadence of recording one a week, so it's a nice flow. But it means every 2 days a week we're there producing, editing. So there's a lot of background work that goes into it. But no, he just does his own thing, and it was just a case of you have to be dedicated to it. It's not a full time job, but it takes a lot of.
Would you recommend weekly, or do you think every other week or once a month? That's just not enough.
I think it depends on what you can commit to fundamentally. If
Okay.
you're stretched within your business, then just do what is manageable to you. So a bit of a tactic that we do here, depending on my work and travel schedule, I'll
Yeah.
shoot 3 or 4 in one week, and then that way you've got this pile up of content ready to just be edited, and just building up processes and systems. So having the guest links ready, having the thumbnails, the headers, the headlines, just all of these small details are things that you need to have front of mind. So when you do go and produce the podcast,
Yeah.
it's ready. The I think where people struggle with it is the resistance to get their guests on and then record it and then edit it in the background. And like anything, if you were to build a Ford car 100 years ago, it would
Yeah.
take you days, weeks. Whereas once you've got a streamlined process, we were able to get the Model T Ford down to, I'm going to make a guess, 8 hours. So it
Nice.
comes down to that. But I think you would do very well running your own podcast, personally speaking.
No, I've thought about it, and I've actually got suggested that we should do one. We just, like you said, I think we also launched a new and differentiator in our opinion. So software that we're trying to take to market. So I didn't want to overextend, but at some point in time, to your point, I think it's very valid to consider doing that because I'm still old school a little bit. I try to meet with people in person when possible because you are going to be partnering with them about very important and urgent things about their business or their day to day and their careers. So I think it's nice to either have a video messaging or in person if you can. And I think the podcasting contributes to that, right? You really get a feel of who that person you're going to be working with is.
You used the word earlier, scalable. It gives you scalable reach. So if you're only moving around the Cincinnati area, Ohio, but then maybe you take a few trips to Florida, California, other places, there's that. However, being able to record these pieces of content, give that person value, and also it's for me, it makes you a little bit sharper with being able to ask questions and think about the next step further along, because it's a demand at times. And guys like Joe Rogan, as we've seen, Chris Williamson, they've mastered the art where they're just so relaxed in their nature and they've got their notes ready. And I mean, Rogan pretty much freestyles everything, doesn't he?
Yeah, and I think that's a good way to do it. Like you said, it's organic, it's authentic, and it's just. And I like how you approached for us to talk today, more just conversational. Obviously, I'm sure you had questions you wanted to ask for sure, but it's more in a conversational way of a person, business, growth, just certain areas that might benefit somebody that would be watching.
So, a very broad question that I love kind of unraveling with people is, what advice would you give to 20-year-old Nathan?
Oh boy. Um, um, don't get married after college. That would be one for sure.
How many times have you got married?
A couple. So I finally now I found the right one. I am married. I have I have a 22-year-old daughter, Joe, and a soon to be 4-year-old son. So I had a lot of growth to do in regards to just kind of career. I think I just, joking aside, I think more early on, I do talk to younger folks in their 20-year old 20s talking about, it's better to have your kind of life set before you incorporate somebody else's life into yours. So I think I didn't do that well for a while. I wanted to have mindset first and incorporating other people into that. It's difficult if both of you are trying to figure it out. There's
Hmm.
two ways that can go. You get closer or band it together, or it's difficult and you go apart. So I would tell my 20-year-old self, make sure you have your kind of ducks in a row first. But also in business, I was very glad that I got exposure to the staffing industry and working and talking to business owners early on. And then diversifying into in the 90s. I graduated college in 95, so late 90s, early 2000s, pushing myself to go where I thought market trends were going. So online, internet, growth there, kind of like Jeff Bezos talked about when he first started on this internet and he saw people growing their businesses 1,200%
Hmm.
online. He's like, wow, this isn't going to go away. I think this is probably what AI is today. This is a new avenue of technology that's going to take off. And he started selling books and then ended up selling everything under the sun on Amazon. And obviously it worked, but just kind of, take those risks, push yourself into areas that are going to go into advancing efficiencies and technologies and go for that. But I think I don't know if I, other than avoiding some hurtful mistakes, I would tell myself personally to do and or professionally. I also think that's what builds your character and how you grow and develop your own calluses in life and business. And um, even though I wish I would probably say I want to change some of them, it also got me to where I am today in regards to who's in my life now. Would I change that? No. All of these factors that at the time I thought were bad, but keeping the faith that this is a plan for me and that's just be a positive influence day to day and try to keep that mentality um, as we all navigate life.
Hmm. It's
So
not
I
a
don't know
linear
if I would
path.
change
And
anything on it. I would talk to him about certain things, but um, I don't know, it's hard to say even probably for yourself, right? Like what you would maybe change some certain things in paths, but it's kind of like the Back to the Future movies. Like what would you be altering in your future if you did? And I don't know if I'd be wanting to give that up if I did.
yeah, well, one thing I've always said to myself is you can never split test life. And I remember I was coaching to young lads a good 5 or so years ago, and they said, "Should I invest in this program or not?" And I said, "I'll give you an idea. Why don't one of you invest in the program? Why doesn't the other one not invest, and you run the exact same business, just parallels, and see who does better?" It's that's one example, but it's uh, I think a lot of the time in life we have two types of doors. We have revolving doors, we have closed doors. And as long as you can go into these revolving doors where maybe you go down a career path that doesn't work or even a relationship at times, like I'm sure you've
Right.
got a beautiful
Yep.
daughter and a really handsome son from both of those relationships and you wouldn't give them up for the world. So those are the things there that there's always something that can be taken from these challenges and lessons. And that's why getting uh, the opinion and the experience and feedback from someone with life experience such as yourself is great because these are things that I believe a lot
Yeah,
of
because
younger people can.
for a while, Joe, I had a negative connotation to that for myself. Because that wasn't the plan, right? But it's just my path. It's my journey, and that's okay. And sometimes you got to get okay with that. But then, as you said, that new door opens up where I didn't think I was going to have any more children and different things, and just had my 22-year-old daughter at the time, or she's 22 now, but like at the time when I had my son Grayson, she was 4 years younger, and I was okay with that too. But now being able to raise a son and having that, it's like that's a blessing. So, you, and if I didn't do that, I wouldn't have that. So you just don't know, man. You gotta. I think it's about how you deal with life and what it hands you. I'm a big Rocky fan, Joe. So Rocky Balboa has this quote in regards to life isn't always sunshine and rainbows, and sometimes you have to be able to weather the storm or handle adversity and keep getting up and
Hmm.
keep moving forward, and that's how positive and or winning is done, he says. So honestly, I like a lot of, I know the movie isn't really real, but the motivating factors I think that are from his life are real because he really struggled for a while and until he made it. And I think that is what we got to do in life is kind of like persevere. You're going to get hits, you're going to get knocked down. Do you get back up and keep trying? Do you keep moving forward is the key.
100%. Nathan,
Yep.
thank you for your time. Where can people find you and what's next for you?
Yeah, you can find us on LinkedIn, talent-thrive.com, on our website as well. What's next for us, man? You're going to be seeing us online. We've got social media campaigns going. We are really launching our new talent data software to the market in regards to making people's lives easier with all of the people decisions that they have to make in their employment. Um, and we're expanding that reach through business consultants, business coaches, sales coaches, and direct B2B, and anybody we can help individually, making sure they're aligned on the right path. Um, Hopefully, you see us or Talent Thrive out there in the software world, and and if you have any feedback or recommendations, we're always open to hear and sharing stories about how we helped businesses or people in their career journey and employment journey is always fun for me to hear. So
Pleasure. Nathan, thank you.
thanks, Joe.